The United States of America is a country well known all over the globe as a very beautiful country, a country which upholds democracy. For the average person around the globe, including Africans, we view the United States of America as this beautiful country which has done so many great things around the globe. And thanks to Hollywood and the Western media for portraying this image to the world. But there is the other side of the coin where people do not usually see. Only people who are interested in politics or geopolitical issues would understand what the United States of America is all about. I'm going to play two short clips in a moment so that we can get to see the other side of the United States of America, which we do not know, which we do not pay attention to, but which is very, very critical and which shapes the world today. Why we see so many African countries aligning themselves with Russia rather than the United States of America, aligning themselves with China rather than the United States of America. Let's take a listen.
I begged the Ukrainians, and I had a track record with the Ukrainians. I advised the Ukrainians. I'm not anti-Ukrainian, I'm pro-Ukrainian completely. I said, save your lives, save your sovereignty, save your territory, be neutral. Don't listen to the Americans. I repeated to them the famous adage of Henry Kissinger, that to be an enemy of the United States is dangerous, but to be a friend is fatal. Okay, so let me repeat that for Europe. To be an enemy of the United States is dangerous, but to be a friend is fatal. The United States decided this man must be overthrown. It's called a regime change operation. There have been about 100 of them by the United States, many in your countries, and many all over the world. That's what the CIA does for a living. Okay? Please know it. It's a very unusual kind of foreign policy. But in America, if you don't like the other side, you don't negotiate with them, you try to overthrow them. And then the U.S. Decided in September 20th, 2001, that it would launch 7 wars in 5 years. And listen to General Wesley Clark online talk about that. He was NATO's Supreme Commander in 1999. He went to the Pentagon on September 20th, 2001. He was handed the paper explaining 7 wars.
And I went downstairs. I was leaving the Pentagon, and an officer from the Joint Staff called me into his office and said, I want you to know, he said, sir, we're going to attack Iraq. And I said, why? He said, we don't know. He said, I said, well, did they tie Saddam to 9/11? He said, no. He said, but I guess they don't know what to do about terrorism. And so they think, but they can attack states, and they want to look strong. And so I guess they think if they take down a state, it will intimidate the terrorists. And, you know, it's like that old saying, he said, if the only tool you have is a hammer, then every problem has to be a nail. Well, I walked out of there pretty upset. And then we attacked Afghanistan. I was pretty happy about that. We should have. And then I came back to the Pentagon about 6 weeks later. I saw the same officer. I said, why haven't we attacked Iraq? We still going to attack Iraq? He said, oh, sir. He says, it's worse than that. He said, he pulled up a piece of paper off his desk. He said, I just got this memo from the Secretary of Defense's office. It says we're going to attack and destroy the governments in 7 countries in 5 years. We're going to start with Iraq, and then we're going to move to Syria, Lebanon, Libya, Somalia, Sudan, and Iran. I said, 7 countries in 5 years. I said, is that a classified memo? He said, yes, sir. I said, well, don't show it to me. He was about to show it to me. He said, because I want to talk about it.
There you have it. That is the United States of America for you. Some people would call it the terrorist government with the sole mandate of destroying every other country that exists on the planet so that they can remain on top. They do not believe that we must have fair competition. They do not allow anybody to get ahead. If you look at the tensions between the United States of America and China, it's all about who dominates the world. and they are willing to do anything to try and destroy the Republic of China with bad publicity, tariffs, sanctions, trying their best to stop them from getting their hands on on the best technology in the world, so that they can develop themselves. Just like what that other gentleman said, uh, be friends with the United States of America at your own peril. If you have any kind of relationship with the United States of America, it's always based on them gaining something from you. You know, they will want your leadership to be puppets. If you hear that your leadership, your country is in good relations with the United States of America as an African country, you know there's nothing good that is going to come out of it. The United States of America, the way they relate with the world is colonial, it's imperial. They always want to take advantage of the smaller countries in the world, the poor countries of the world, to siphon their resources. As soon as you stand up against the shenanigans of the United States of America, you are faced with a heavy hand of sanctions, invasion, and tariffs, and all that nonsense. It's just because that's how the United States operates. Contrary to how the Chinese and the Russians operate, the Russians, when they come to assist, they want a fair due, or they just want to help, same as the Chinese. In case of Saudi Arabia and Iran, the Chinese realize that they have a good relationship with Saudi Arabia, same as Iran, and they figured out themselves that, but between Saudi Arabia and Iran, there's no good relationship. China being China, a builder of the world, they go to both sides and say, you know what, let's sit down, let's have a conversation. And for sure, it happened, and it meant relationship. But if it was the United States of America, when it sees conflict, it goes and picks one side and goes and say, we can support you, go attack, here's the weapons. If you look at the list that has been listed of the countries that the United States of America planned to create wars with, for no reason, actually, for no any reason, amongst all of them on that list, the only country which they failed was Iran, and they tried their best. Even the Obama administration tried to launch an attack, but they just couldn't. They ended by at the shores of Iran and had to pull back. But that's how you can see. Oh, some of them African countries, Sudan, Somalia, you can see it's been division, it's been removing of governments, overthrowing of governments behind the scenes of the situation, but they pretend to be a good country. But I think that dominance and that rule is coming to an end. They have dug their own hole. People are beginning to wake up and realizing who they are, that there are shenanigans and there are criminals of war destroying the rest of the world for them to stay on top of the world.